Welcome to Simple Things, where small stories spark big changes and growth begins with honesty.
If I could sit beside you, the version of me who thought crying made her weak, who smiled through the ache, who swallowed silence like it was survival, I wouldn't say a single word. I'd just hold your hand, so you'd know. You were never supposed to heal alone. Because sometimes, the only apology we need is the one we give ourselves. I wasn't the kind of kid you'd worry about. I got good grades. I said please and thank you. I smiled when adults told me I was mature for my age, even though I didn't really understand what that meant. I stayed quiet when things felt tense at home, and I learned early on that silence was safer than truth. On paper, I was doing fine, but on the inside, I was always auditioning. Auditioning for love, for safety, for belonging. It's funny, isn't it? How we can grow up in a house full of people and still feel like we have to earn the right to be seen. My childhood wasn't a war zone. There were no obvious monsters, just the slow, invisible erosion of self, 1,000 moments where I needed someone to look me in the eyes and say, "What you're feeling is real, and you're allowed to feel it." But that moment never came. Instead, I got praise for being strong, for being independent, for never needing too much. And so I wore those labels like armor, not realizing they were slowly turning into chains. By the time I hit my teens, I had already become a master at minimizing my needs. I didn't cry in front of people. I didn't ask for help. I didn't admit when something hurt. Vulnerability, that was weakness, and weakness wasn't safe. I remember once, in middle school, a friend of mine broke down in the middle of class. Her tears spilled out like she couldn't stop them. The teacher walked her out gently, and I just sat there frozen. I wanted to go after her. I wanted to say, "It's okay. I feel it too." But I didn't, because I was too good at pretending I didn't feel anything. That moment stayed with me. Not because of what happened to her, but because of what didn't happen to me. I didn't reach out. I didn't speak up. I didn't let myself feel. And that became a pattern. By the time I was an adult, I had curated an entire personality around being the strong one, the dependable friend, the overachiever, the one who always had it together. People admired me for it. They came to me for advice. They said things like, "I wish I was as emotionally stable as you." If only they knew. If only I had known. I thought I was doing everything right. I thought holding it all in made me resilient. I thought being self-sufficient made me worthy. But deep down, I was quietly falling apart so slowly, so secretly, that even I didn't notice it happening. Until one day, I did. But I'll get to that. First, you need to know I wasn't broken. I was just a person who had learned to survive by becoming invisible to herself. It didn't happen all at once. There was no cinematic breakdown, no stormy night, no sudden revelation in the mirror. Just small cracks, hairline fractures in the life I'd so carefully constructed. It started with fatigue I couldn't sleep off. Then came the snap in my voice when someone asked me, "Are you okay?" And then the silence, the kind that followed me home, wrapped itself around my throat and whispered, "Keep pretending. That's what you're good at." But one night, everything caved in. It was a Tuesday, a regular, painfully ordinary Tuesday. I came home from work, dropped my bag by the door, and collapsed on the floor fully clothed, lights still on. I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned, and I realized I'd been holding my breath for years. I didn't cry, not yet. The tears came the next morning, at a coffee shop, of all places. The barista smiled and said, "Rough day." And something in the kindness of that question shattered me. I laughed. I cried. I couldn't stop either. People stared. I didn't care. For the first time, I couldn't fake it. I went home and sat in front of the mirror, and I asked myself, what the hell is happening to me? But deep down, I already knew. I was unraveling, not because I was weak, but because I had spent my entire life performing strength. I tried to fix it, like I fixed everything: productivity, routines, motivational podcasts. I even made a spreadsheet titled Healing Plan. Step 1, meditate. Step 2, journal. Step 3, be okay again. What I didn't realize is, you can't logic your way out of an emotional wound. And I was wounded, badly. I was grieving the version of myself I thought I had to be the unshakable one, the girl who never cried, the woman who could carry it all without flinching. I was mourning a life that had no room for softness, no space for mess, no permission to be human. One night, I typed into Google, "Why do I feel so empty? How do you know if you're depressed? Is it okay to not be okay?" The results weren't what helped. What helped was the realization that someone else had typed those words before me. Thousands, maybe millions of people. And suddenly, I wasn't alone. I wasn't broken. I was just human. That was the moment I stopped trying to be fine, and I started trying to be honest. But honesty is messy. And what came next? It wasn't healing. Not yet. It was war. The war wasn't loud. There were no angry outbursts, no dramatic exits. It was quiet, a quiet dismantling of everything I thought made me enough. I started therapy. Not because I believed it would work, but because I had run out of ways to lie to myself. I walked in with a brave face and a trembling voice. My therapist asked me, "What brings you here?" And for the first time, I said it out loud. "I don't know who I am when I'm not performing." That broke me. Because it was true. I didn't know how to exist without being useful, without being strong, without being okay. I didn't know how to rest without guilt. I didn't know how to cry without apologizing for it. What followed was weeks, months of peeling back layers I didn't even know were there. Memories I had buried, feelings I had labeled as too much. The moments I flinched when someone was kind to me, because kindness had always felt conditional. I remember one session when I told her, "I feel like I'm grieving someone who didn't die." She looked at me and said, "You're grieving you, the version of you who learned to survive, not thrive." I sat there in stunned silence, because she was right. I was mourning the child who never got to be held when she cried, the teenager who taught herself to numb before she ever learned to feel, the adult who confused resilience with repression. And I'll be honest, healing didn't feel noble. It didn't feel poetic. It felt like hell. It felt like waking up in the middle of the night with anxiety clutching my ribs. It felt like realizing I couldn't remember the last time I had said "I'm hurting" without laughing it off. It felt like rewriting every script I had ever been handed about what it means to be okay. But here's the part no one tells you about healing. Before you feel whole, you feel raw. You feel like your skin doesn't fit anymore. You feel exposed. You feel foolish for crying over things that happened 20 years ago, until you realize those things never stopped happening in your nervous system. Trauma isn't in the past. It's in the patterns. And my patterns, they were made of silence, avoidance, perfectionism masked as ambition, compliance disguised as kindness. I started writing letters I never sent to people who hurt me, to people who didn't protect me, to the version of me who kept getting up when she really needed to be carried. Some nights, I'd read them out loud. Other nights, I'd burn them. And in those ashes, I started to see her me not as broken, but as wounded. There's a difference. Broken things need fixing. Wounded things need tending. I wasn't a failure. I was just tired. I wasn't dramatic. I was unheard. I wasn't cold. I was protecting something very warm inside me that had never been safe to show. The real turning point came in the smallest of moments. A rainy afternoon. A mirror. I looked at myself, no makeup, puffy eyes, hair pulled back, and whispered, "I'm not going to abandon you anymore." I didn't say it out loud for anyone else. I said it to the girl who used to cry in the dark and then pretend nothing happened. To the woman who always gave more than she received. To the soul who was tired of being brave all the time. And in that whisper, something shifted. I stopped chasing healing like it was a destination. I started practicing it like it was a relationship. And for the first time in my life, I let myself be held not by someone else, by me. Healing doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up with confetti and violins and a certificate that says, "You made it." It arrives in ordinary moments. The first time I laughed, really laughed without wondering if it was allowed. The first time I said, "No, thank you," without offering an excuse. The first time I sat with someone else's pain and didn't try to fix it because I had finally learned to sit with my own. I still have bad days. I still flinch when I hear raised voices. I still overthink a text message for hours. I still wake up some mornings and feel like the weight of being alive is heavier than I expected. But now, I don't shame myself for it. I don't immediately jump into fix-it mode. I don't pretend it's fine when it isn't. Now, I meet myself where I am, tenderly, patiently, quietly. Because the truth is, healing didn't turn me into someone new. It brought me home to someone I had always been. Someone who never needed to earn softness. Someone who didn't have to apologize for needing rest. Someone who could say, "This still hurts," and not feel like she was failing at life. If I could write a letter to the me who was still hurting, I wouldn't rush her through the process. I wouldn't hand her a checklist or a timeline. I wouldn't say, "You'll be okay soon." I'd say, "You don't need to be okay right now. You just need to be real. Let that be enough." And if you're still there, still hurting, still carrying things you were never meant to hold, I want to tell you this. Your softness is not a liability. Your feelings are not a flaw. Your breakdown is not the opposite of growth. It is growth. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Becoming someone who no longer lives in survival mode. Someone who doesn't confuse being needed with being loved. Someone who knows the difference between peace and silence. And maybe, just maybe one day, you'll look back and realize the bravest thing you ever did was choose to stay soft in a world that taught you to harden. So, here's my invitation to you. Don't rush to the ending. Don't fast forward to the better version of you. Sit with yourself now. Hold her. Witness her. Tell her, "You're allowed to hurt." Tell her, "You're safe now." Tell her, "You are not alone anymore." Because you aren't, not anymore. If this story found you at the right time, maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe you needed to be reminded that your pain isn't too much, that your story isn't too small, and that healing doesn't make you perfect, it just makes you honest. If it resonated with something inside you, I invite you to stay. Not because I need the numbers, but because maybe, just maybe, you need a space that reminds you you are not healing alone. So, if you feel called, subscribe. If you know someone who needs this, share it. If you have something to say, leave a comment. Tell me the one thing you wish your younger self had heard, or just say, "I'm still hurting, but I'm trying." That's enough. We're not here to go viral. We're here to get real. And if you're here, you belong. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next story.